Hello and welcome to the Applied HR module project discussion. Um, I'm going to provide you with another overview again of the project just to sort of make sure that you've picked up all the points you need to be aware of. And how we're going to organise this is I'm going to firstly talk about the bigger picture of the project, um, and obviously the background to your project as well, content sheet, etc., etc. And then we're going to look at the main questions. So as part of the project, make sure that you have a front cover, of course, with your student names and ID on. You may have a photograph of the company if you wish, that's fine as well. And also, just to make you aware as well, that if you don't want to name the company, that's okay as well. You can call it something different, something else. That's fine as well. Once you've done that, you'll have a content sheet. Obviously, you do that at the end when you're finished. And once you have the content sheet done, you need to think about the background to the company. So introduce the company, a bit of background, around about 400 or 500 words. Say where they're from, what they do. You may even mention there about the HR department in terms of how it's structured, if there is one. That's important as well. Once you've done that, then the background, then we're straight then into question one. Remember, the focus here of this particular project is for you to evaluate a company in terms of how it does HR. So what best way to do that then is to think about the actual HR strategy, if there is one. So question one is asking you to analyse the organisation's overall HR strategy. Now, it's either going to be on paper, which is explicit, or if it hasn't got one, which is fine, it's implicit, which means that it's not written down, but they still do recruitment, they still do selection, they still do development, they still do rewards. It's just not explicitly written down deliberately, but it's still done. So you're going to have to analyse the way the company does things as part of the HR system to understand that. Of course, if there is a HR strategy, then it's going to be HRM, without a doubt. So once you've identified that, you need to think about the main question here is it HRM or is it personal management? So if it is implicit, if there's nothing written down, you're going to have to think about maybe using the guest model or the story model to find out what's the weighting here. Is it a bit of this, a bit of that? Is it half HRM, half personal management? So the way to do that is to use the guest model and the story one if you wish as well, and to have a visual diagram of story, or sorry, of guest, and maybe tick either side to show that it's strategic or it's reactive, it's compliance or it's commitment. And once you've done that, then I'd like you to maybe provide a paragraph or two just to describe why you've ticked either side of the PM versus HRM to provide a bit of evidence. So the key to question one is to think about what style of management is the particular organisation. Is it HRM or is it personal management? And at the same time you're doing that, of course, you're analysing the HR strategy. Obviously, if there is a HR strategy, as I mentioned, explicit, it's not going to be personal management because it's going to be a lot more reactive. If it is per PM, there's probably going to be nothing written down. It's going to be very reactive. It's going to be ad hoc, marginal to the business plan, and there ain't going to be a strategy at all. Once you've identified HRM or personal management, the final part then is if it is HRM, then I'd like you to think about elements of best fit. You may find evidence on the website, you may find evidence in a document, you may find visual evidence or experienced it. Where can you show this best fit? Where is it a deliberate attempt to try to utilize the HR practices or practice to add value to the business? So if you're working in Marks and Spencers, you could say, well, look, on the website, through experience, through practice, on written down, We focus on quality as an organization, and that's our business strategy. When we recruit, we offer a best fit approach because we recruit and select with quality in mind when we're looking for staff. So as part of the competencies that we look at, we look for quality, and we train consistently for quality. That's an example of best fit in terms of deliberate attempt with the practices to meet the overall business needs of becoming a business which is focused on quality as part of the competitive strategy. And remember, that links back to Porter's idea of competitive advantage. So question 1, 800 words. It's going to be obviously a lot shorter than the rest, and this is only a snapshot of the actual project. It's a difficult part, but it gets you to think about PM and HRM and how explicit or implicit organizations are in terms of the overall focus. I think one way of looking at PM, if it is PM and it's implicit, it's going to be a PM or a people management strategy. That's implicit, but it tends to move towards the personal management side. Although it's a strategy, it's implicit. Question 2, remember you've got to look at 3 HR practices. The focus here is to, with each practice, is to describe the process as to how that particular practice is delivered. So recruitment, how does it happen? What's the process? You'll get marks for that, to being clear, but you'll also get marks for evaluation in terms of what's good about it and where do you think it needs, or where is there an issue, where are things that could be better. So evaluation means both positive and negative, and you need to use good practice here from HR books, from the Armstrong book in particular, where you can show, well, according to Armstrong this is good, or according to Armstrong we should be doing this and therefore it's a weakness, and you'll get the top marks for that then, for evaluation. With each practice, provide a conclusion, or you can also provide one conclusion at the end of question 2, which concludes all 3 practices if you wish. But remember as well to bring a SWOT diagram into the conclusion, or have it in somewhere in question 2 that shows the strengths and weaknesses, and maybe the opportunities and threats as well. But the SWOT can include all 3 practices. And I think the SWOTs are useful because it provides a snapshot for the reader to see what's in the text, and it helps you as well to pull out what are the key strengths, what are the key weaknesses, and that'll be useful for your recommendations, which is obviously question 3. So to summarize question 2 then, think about the practice you're going to use, the process that's involved, describe it, evaluate it. What's good? Why is it good? Who says so? Where do you think it's a weakness? Why is it a weakness? Who says so? Now you can bring your own experience in here, and if it's logical argument, that's fine as well. But if you can include a reference or 2, it doesn't have to be 6,000 references to course material, but if you can include a reference or 2, you get the higher mark then. And finally, with question 3, remember this is about recommendations, so you need to analyse the conclusions and make some recommendations as to, we recommend because XYZ, in question 2 we recommend XYZ wherever. The recommendations as well can also include question 1, so if there's an issue there around the it could even be around the background as well if you wish. You could mention that in the background and even in question 1, obviously the background to the company that is, and in question 1 there could be a problem there could be no HR strategy. In the recommendations you could recommend a particular HR delivery service like the Ulrich system, for example, or you could include a particular type of a HR department, or the role of the line manager, whatever you think is going to be useful. So that's part of the recommendations. Maybe put them in priority order. That's how you think it's going to be very important over others. And finally, consider organisational change. What are the implications of the recommendations? What might have to happen if there's going to be a huge change? There could be resistance. Maybe you might want to mention that as well, and what could happen or what could support. And maybe resource issues around things like money, lack of equipment, and just maybe flag that up just to make, despite the recommendations, there could be resource issues around X, Y, Z. Overall, remember the word count is 4,000 words, but remember you can go 10% over to 4.5. So if you can, as I mentioned before, try and keep it between 4 and 4.5. That'd be fine. But again, if you go up to 5,000, just try and bring it back if you can. If there is data or a lot of material in the first part of the project, questions 1, 2 and 3, you can put some information in the appendices at the back as well, which is not included as part of the word count. So you can put detail in the appendices and it's not included as part of the word count. The final thing to say, apart from good luck, is to one person in each group, just one person, one team member from each group, is submit the project online. So if there's 5 in a group, just one of you will submit for the rest of you. And of course you're going to you have to think here about who's going to do what in terms of breaking it down, but make sure that one person brings all the bits together and then puts it into a draft, sends it back out, and then you all maybe have some say on it or a bit of feedback, and then that final person then finish off the touches, submits it, and then gets it off, obviously, and that's done. So good luck with the project. If you need any extra help, you have my email address, and I shall all see you soon. Thanks now. Bye.